The silence now, at 83, is the loudest thing I've ever heard. It's deafening, honestly. When you reach this age, you spend a lot of time counting the things you gathered and the things you let slip away. I was successful. I had a good business. But if you ask me what my biggest failure was, it wasn't a stock market crash or a bad investment. It was simple. I pushed away everyone who ever told me I was wrong. I thought I was protecting my peace, but I was actually engineering my own isolation. I ruined the most precious things I had, and I did it with arrogance. My generation, we valued conviction. We thought hesitation was weakness. I took that too far. When someone, anyone, would challenge my perspective, I didn't hear a differing opinion. I heard disrespect. My chest would tighten up, and I would make a silent calculation. Is this person worth the trouble? And almost always the answer I gave myself was no. I figured, why argue? Why invite trouble into my perfectly curated bubble? So I'd cut them off, sometimes physically, sometimes just emotionally. I thought I was smart enough to figure everything out on my own. What a fool's game that was. It started small. In the office decades ago, if a junior manager had a better idea than mine, I'd find a reason to dismiss their judgment entirely, sometimes even transfer them out. I wasn't looking for the best answer. I was looking for agreement. I surrounded myself with yes men, and they weren't always men, of course. People who would nod vigorously and just tell me that I had brilliant foresight. They fed my ego, and in return, I kept them close. But agreement doesn't sharpen you. It dulls the blade. And slowly, my decision-making became worse. But more importantly, my soul became smaller. The real tragedy began when I brought that demanding, unchallenged mindset home. My wife, Victoria, she was the smartest woman I ever knew. Sharp, kind, and she read widely. She loved to debate. She'd bring up a newspaper article or a theory, and she'd press me gently on my political stances or my business ethics. She wasn't trying to convert me. She was trying to keep us both honest. But I treated her discussions like attacks. I'd shut her down with a sneering dismissal. You don't understand the market, Victoria. Stay out of it. Every time I did that, a piece of our intimacy vanished. I can remember the day she stopped trying. We were sitting at the dinner table. She brought up something about a tax law that affected our community. I gave her my usual arrogant brush-off, looking down at my food. She didn't raise her voice. She just put her fork down slowly, looked me in the eye, and said, "Frank, I am tired of talking to a wall." That was 30 years ago, and I still hear that sentence now, every single morning. She continued living here, but she stopped sharing her mind. She stopped challenging me. It wasn't just Victoria. My son Lysander tried too. Lysander grew up and developed very different political views than mine. I should have cherished that friction, that intellectual sparring. It was a chance to see the world through a new lens, his generation's lens. Instead, I belittled his perspective. I told him he was naive, that he lived in a fantasy. I didn't argue the points. I attacked his character and his effort. I created a relationship where he felt safer just agreeing with me to maintain peace, even though he knew I was wrong. Eventually, he just started keeping his visits shorter. Why stick around the old man who only talks to himself? What I didn't realize until much later is that when you only allow people who agree with you into your life, you stop having real friends. You have followers, or employees, or family members who are just managing your expectations. A true friendship is built on the foundation of honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. I got rid of the uncomfortable parts. I made my world smooth and quiet. But life isn't meant to be smooth and quiet. It's meant to be full of bumps and shouts and necessary resistance. When you isolate yourself from diverse thought, you stop growing. Around age 55, I effectively decided I was finished learning. Why should I listen to some young upstart? Why should I engage with ideas that seemed foolish to me? I doubled down on everything I already believed. It was comfortable, sure. But comfort is the great enemy of development. I spent the last 20 years running in place, convinced I was leading a marathon, while the world moved past me, propelled by the very challenging ideas I refused to engage with. Victoria passed away 3 years ago. In those last years, the house was silent, even when she was here. She was kind, she was gentle, but she hadn't engaged me in a real debate in over 20 years. And now I sit here, and I look at the news, and I form opinions, and there is absolutely no one to bounce them off of. There is no one to look at me and say, "Frank, are you sure about that?" There is no one who knows me well enough to call my bluff. The echo chamber I built is just me, talking to the empty room. That is my reward for demanding compliance. My son Lysander calls on Sundays. We talk about the weather, his job, the safe topics. He's careful. He learned long ago that his father doesn't want truth, he wants peace. And I created that dynamic. That's the real tragedy of this kind of ego. You don't just alienate people, you fundamentally change the way they interact with you, forever. They lose the muscle of honesty around you because they know it only leads to pain. I can't blame him for protecting himself. I wish now that I had been the kind of man who could handle being corrected. So if you are watching this and you are younger, listen closely. Do not seek agreement, seek truth. Seek the person who makes you feel slightly irritated because they are likely the person who has something important to teach you. They are your sparring partner. They are the friction that creates fire, not ash. When someone challenges your deeply held belief, don't defend it instantly. Take a breath. Ask them to explain why. Let yourself be uncomfortable, because the temporary discomfort of a good argument is 1,000,000 times better than the eternal, hollow comfort of complete loneliness. I spent a lifetime building walls and pushing people out of the garden. Now I'm just standing in the dirt, wondering what happened to all the flowers. I would trade every dollar I ever earned, every minor victory I ever claimed, just for 1 hour with Victoria again. 1 hour where she could look at me and tell me with pure love why I was wrong. I don't need praise now. I just desperately need someone to argue with. Don't waste your chances for real connection. Don't be like Frank. Open your ears, and for heaven's sake, stop being so afraid of being wrong.